I was going to kill Zhou Ping and take the couple's swords, but I didn't expect that someone killed him before I could do anything. It's a pity that the expert destroyed the sword, too. What a pity his words were filled with regret for the sword. Who is that expert? I didn't see him. However, his true identity is not difficult to guess. In this world, there are only 3 people who can use swords to such an extreme level. For a moment, the young man seemed to have forgotten his objective as he went on. One of them is a villainous patriarch of Evil Sky Pavilion, Jita now, who is also the one I fear the most. Little Yuan covered her smile with a hand and said, "Then you should be running right now." The young man said with a smile, "Why are you running away?" Little Yuan was about to reply, but when she suddenly remembered that she could not expose herself, she swallowed the words that were hanging on the tip of her tongue. When the young man saw little Yuan hesitating, he continued to say with a smile, "I've observed you for the entire night. You can't fool me. Little girl, you're from the divine court realm. The old man's body is healthy. His cultivation base is at the middle stage of the sense condensation realm." He gestured with his hand as he said, "But that's not the point. Back to our topic. The second person who cultivated the sword to the penultimate stage is Yu Shangrong, the second head devil of Evil Sky Pavilion." "Who's the third one?" "The third person seems far away, but is actually very close." "You're the sword freak, Chen Wenjie?" Lu Zhou asked, puzzled. No. Chen Wenjie is obsessed with swordplay, but he doesn't love the sword. I'm different. I like the sword, and I like swordplay as well. A person like Chen Wenjie is ambiguous with his stance. Someone like him will die a gruesome death sooner or later, the young man said. As soon as Lu Zhou heard this, he knew who the young man was. He stroked his beard as he said, "The one who loves swords to the bones, Zhang Aijian." Zhang Aijian had changed his name to reflect his deep love for the sword. He must be the only person in the cultivation world to do so. His pursuit of the sword was almost an obsession. He was also a genuine rogue cultivator. He was adapted to survive on the treacherous path of the cultivation world. His skills were clearly high based on how he managed to escape from the elite who killed Zhou Ping. He had 2 obsessions. One was his love for the sword, and second was to stay out of trouble. His second obsession played a huge role in keeping him. Someone who stayed neutral, alive for so many years. "You're exaggerating," Zhang Aijian said with a smile. Lu Zhou lifted his head slightly as unnamed materialized in his hand. It was short and exquisite. Zhang Aijian was visibly stunned. His eyes were widened as he stared at it. It was truly beautiful. The length and the design of the blade were just what he liked. His voice contained hints of excitement as he said, "Oh, mister." Lu Zhou waved his hand. An unnamed disappeared. He said emotionlessly, "If you wish to live, you do well not to covet this blade." Gong, gong, gong. At this moment, the tolling of the bell could be heard from the holy altar. Lu Zhou frowned slightly. The holy altar was where the grand ceremony of the righteous and fiendish paths was celebrated. Why would there be a Buddhist bell there? Zhang Aijian exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, mister, the holy altar is filled with strange people. The cultivators from the noble and fiendish paths are gathered there, so it's an awfully dangerous place to be. I suggest you refrain from going there. I heard the holy daughter they had selected this time is the 5th villain of Golden Court Mountain's Evil Sky Pavilion." He laughed as he continued to say, "How ironic. A fiend is chosen as the holy daughter." Lu Zhou ignored him. Zhang Aijian spoke again. "However, if you really plan on going and getting yourself killed, I'll be able to obtain your sword, old mister. At that time, I'll collect your corpse and bury you in a treasured land where the elements are in harmony." As soon as Zhang Aijian finished speaking, little Yuan lost her temper. "Let me deal with him." Her body was as light as a swallow, and her majesty could rival the heavens. Her ferocious primal chi rippled out immediately. Zhang Aijian parried the incoming energy waves as he retreated. He was rendered speechless for a moment. What a feisty young girl. You don't seem like an ordinary divine court realm cultivator. Little Yuan scoffed. "I'll hit you so hard that you'll be picking up your teeth from the ground." "Little girl, don't make me use my sword." Zhang Aijian retreated again. Dong, dong, The bell tolled again from the holy altar. It was tolling with increasing urgency. Zhou glanced at Jiang Aijin dismissively. He's only a rogue cultivator who loves swords. There's no need to waste an item card on him. He motioned to little Yuan as he said, "Yuan, we're leaving." Suddenly, a roar sounded from the nearby forest. The colossal mountain dashed toward them. Its roar frightened the beasts in the forest into scampering. The king of the beasts' aura sent chills running up one's spine. Jiang Aijin was startled by the sight of the legendary mount. He quickly pulled his arms back and did a flip before he landed on the tips of his toes. He moved backward at lightning speed, evading little Yuaner's attack. "So you're an elite." Those who possessed legendary mounts were undoubtedly elites whose names alone would shock the masses. The old mister might have a weak cultivation base, but it was clear his background was not as simple as it seemed. Although Jiang Aijin loved swords, he loved his life more. He cupped his fists as he hovered in the air. "Old mister, the holy altar is a dangerous place. Why don't you go somewhere else instead? I can take care of myself." Zhou leaped onto Bayan with light movements. Bayan bared its fangs. Liu Yuan glanced at Jiang Aijin and scoffed before she leaped onto Bayan as well. Jiang Aijin could only look as the duo sped toward the holy altar. He stroked his chin, lost in thought. Should I give chase? What if I run into that old villain? He was in a dilemma. He mulled over the matter for some time before he finally made a decision. I'm not going to involve myself in their quarrel. Right, that's what I'll do. I'll just collect his corpse when he dies. Then he followed the duo from afar. Dong, 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 on the holy altar. The huge flying chariot of the Temple of Great Emptiness hovered in the air as dozens of monks chanted sutras with their palms joined together. The sound of their chantings resounded in the air. Zhou and little Yuan were still a distance away, and the chanting sounded like the buzzing of mosquitoes to their ears. They did not make their way to the monks. Instead, they landed somewhere near the holy altar. The buildings on the holy altar took up a vast space. The patio at the base formed a ring around the area with 48 doors. The plaza extended for several miles in all directions. Ordinary people were not allowed to be in the vicinity without a valid reason. When Zhou stepped foot on the holy altar, the tolling of the bells became agitated. It was annoying. Zhou raised his hand slightly. The Buddhist Great Meditation Narni. What's a bunch of monks doing here? Little Yuana muttered under her breath. The Great Meditation Narni had a powerful and intimidating effect on enemies. This was achieved by the communal chanting of sutras. Only the bald donkeys of the Temple of Great Emptiness could pull this off. Stay calm and wait. The Great Meditation Narni can only be recited 5 times in a row. Zhou stood still as he looked at the flying chariot in the air. This might prove to be a good thing. The Great Meditation Narni could intimidate most cultivators. This solved Zhou's worry about his deadly strike card being unable to hit multiple targets at once. However, he was truly curious why the Temple of Great Emptiness would appear here when they usually did not concern themselves with the secular world's affairs. The bell tolled once more. The Great Meditation Narni sounded as though a colony of flies was having a party. Zhou shook his head helplessly. He wondered if there was anyone who would enjoy listening to the Great Meditation Narni. After a few moments, the buzzing of the Great Meditation Narni finally faded. The holy altar was plunged into deadly silence. Let's go, Zhou said as he and little Yuan made their way to the center of the holy altar. Even when they approached the plaza, nobody seemed to take notice of them. They successfully blended in with the crowd. Little Yuan pointed at a nearby flying chariot and said, "There's the flying chariot from the Fiend Temple." Apart from the Fiend Temple, there were also the flags from the Righteous Sect and the Clarity Sect around the holy altar's plaza. Just as expected, the cultivators from a noble path and fiendish path around the duo had a sour expression on their faces. They were practically huffing and puffing as they looked up. Zhou swept his eyes across the holy altar. With the eye of truth, everyone seemed like an enemy. He did not dare to think about what would happen to him if his identity was exposed. 3 impeccable cards and 3 deadly strike cards were more than enough for him to escape with his life intact. but it would be difficult for him to take Zhao Yu away. At this moment, a monk emerged from a flying chariot above the holy altar and descended slowly. His palms were joined together, and his kasaya glittered with gold. Someone cried out in surprise, "Kong Xian from the Temple of Great Emptiness?" As Kong Xian slowly descended, he projected his voice. "The abbot has decreed that the holy daughter of the current grand ceremony, Zhao Yu, will be taken away by the Temple of Great Emptiness. I ask for your understanding and forgiveness, my dear benefactors." A man in long robes pointed at Kong Xian as he said indignantly, "Bald donkey, how can we let you take the holy daughter away just because you wanna? What do you take our righteous sect for?" It was clear that the grand ceremony had reached an important stage before the Temple of Great Emptiness came. Lu Zhou looked around his surroundings but could not see Zhao Yu. However, he was certain Zhao Yu was on the holy altar since the monks of the Temple of Great Emptiness, the righteous sect, Clarity sect, and the Fiend Temple were here. A hint of excitement could be seen on little Yuaner's face at this moment. She liked the clamor. She looked around fearlessly. When Lu Zhou was still surveying his surroundings, a person walked up to him. "Oh, mister, you should take a few steps back." Jiang Aijian. Lu Zhou was rendered speechless. It seemed like the rumor about this person's pathological obsession with swords was true. However, for some who loved his life equally as much, it was unexpected that he would come to the holy altar. Jiang Aijian glanced at the cultivators on the holy altar plaza, who had a sour expression on their faces before he said, "Oh, mister, if it weren't for your sword, I wouldn't come to this nonsensical place." Lu Zhou's expression was calm, and he did not deign to reply to Jiang Aijian. He looked at Kong Xian, the monk, who had descended on the center of the plaza. Jiang Aijian said in a hushed tone, "You should leave now while you still have a chance to do so." Lu Zhou felt suspicious about Jiang Aijian's warning. He felt that Jiang Aijian was not telling him everything he knew. Jiang Aijian looked around before he said softly, "In a few moments, these monks will seal the holy altar. Oh, mister, the holy altar is only a pretense, and the holy daughter is a bait." Lu Zhou felt skeptical. He asked with a straight face, "How do you know this is a trap?" "If you sell me your sword, I'll tell you. You're only at the middle stage of the sense-condensing realm. Nobody will be able to save you if you don't leave now." He looked at the setting sun as he continued to say, "This is your last chance to survive." Lu Zhou found Jiang Aijian's words amusing. He stroked his beard and asked, "I thought you wanted me dead?" No. I value life above all else. I would love to get my hands on that sword, but a righteous man should obtain the sword in a righteous way. Look around you." Jiang Aijian motioned to the left and right. He clicked his tongue as he shook his head and said, "All of them look like they have a short lifespan. You're a good person, oh, mister. Good people should live long lives." "I'm a good person?" Lu Zhou was slightly taken aback by this compliment. Jiang Aijian said with a smile, "That sword is a treasure. As its owner, I'm sure you won't have a bad character." What kind of logic was this? Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "There are so many elites here. Can the Temple of Great Emptiness deal with them?" Jiang Aijian shook his head. He pointed toward the righteous sect and Clarity sect. He said, "Oh, mister, look closely. The elders from the righteous and Clarity sects aren't here. Only the third seat of the Fiend Temple is here. They won't be able to do anything." When Lu Zhou looked at the two flags, he discovered, indeed, that many of the seats were empty. Jiang Aijian said with a frown, "They're being held back by the elites. They'll be lucky to keep their heads, let alone come into the holy altar." Lu Zhou looked at Jiang Aijian drily. This fellow seems to have a knack for getting information. No wonder he's able to make a name for himself in the cultivation world. Meanwhile, in the center of the holy altar, Kong Xian bowed at the disciples from the righteous sect who were rioting before he raised his hand and said, "Zhao Yu is a villain from the evil sky pavilion. She bears many sins. Several years ago, Master Kong Ming had lost his life in her hands. The Temple of Great Emptiness shall take her to let Buddha purge her of her sins so that she'll be able to reincarnate as a human." The righteous sect's disciple rose to his feet and retorted angrily, The she-fiend is a public enemy of the noble path. The temple of great emptiness has never bothered about these things, and yet you suddenly show up and fill our ears with your intended acts of mercy? Here's what I think of all this. He spat on the ground as soon as he finished speaking. Seeing this, the cultivators from the righteous sect laughed uproariously. However, the people from the Fiend Temple remained silent. Lu Zhou looked around. The Fiend Temple's second seat, Zuo-Shin-chan, was killed by him. For this reason, they hated the evil Sky Pavilion. It was logical for them to shift the blame to Zhao Yu. He was surprised the Fiend Temple had sent their third seat here this time. He did not know this person, and had never seen this person in his memories as well. Perhaps this person was too insignificant for Ji Tian'ao to take note of. Meanwhile, Kong Xian the monk did not seem angry. He only looked around his surroundings before he said indifferently, "This old monk didn't come here to ask for your approval. Dear benefactors, I'm only here to inform you of this decision. The Temple of Great Emptiness must take the villain of Evil Sky Pavilion, Zhao Yu, away." A figure suddenly leaped forward from the ranks of the noble path. "Well, you'll have to take her by force then." A long sword gleamed in his hand as he unleashed his sword chi in his surroundings. The crowd gasped in surprise at this sudden attack. Jiang Aijin glanced at the figure and shook his head before he said, "Just a cannon fodder throwing his life away." The great meditation learning weakens and intimidates its targets. With the chaotic blood chi of these people, I'd applaud them if they're able to even unleash 30% of their strength. Lu Zhou watched the proceedings calmly. If this did not involve Zhao Yu, it would have nothing to do with him. On the other hand, little Yuana was further excited by this new development. She clapped along with the righteous sect's disciples. It seemed as though she was a cultivator from a noble path as well. At this moment, the cultivator who leaped forward sent a wave of sword chi toward Xian Kong. There was a buzz in the air as Xian Kong's kasaya glittered with gold. He seemed to have grown taller by 10 feet. Arhut golden body? Bang! A loud explosion rang in the air as the cultivator was swatted away by the Arhut golden body. The cultivator flipped in the air and nearly lost his footing when he landed. The sword in his hand was still buzzing from the impact, and his arm was numb. Kong Xian extended one hand, standing still, as he said emotionlessly, "Dear benefactor, why is there a need for anger? The villain is from the Evil Sky Pavilion. You have all fought and lost against the old villain, along with 10 great nascent Divinity Tribulation Realms elites. Even the Heavenly Sword Sect Master, Luo Chanfeng, died a gruesome death. Only by handing the Shifiend over to the Temple of Great Emptiness will everyone remain safe. In other words, Kong Xian meant that if Ji Tian'ao would come, how many of them were capable of stopping Ji Tian'ao?